Hello, and welcome to another episode of Bridging the Gap. I'm your host, Kelly, and I would like to introduce the panel. We have Lapeef Jr. He is a special guest tonight, and we also have Raul Duke. I don't know if everyone remembers him from the last show, but he is really funny and amazing. I have Sayeda, Trigger Mike, and Kat. Kat's new, but she is full of life and really fun. So I want to give everybody a chance to introduce themselves, and then I have an icebreaker question. Raul Duke, would you like to go first? You're muted. You're muted.
There we go. My name is Raul Duke. I'm from Newfoundland, Canada. I am a famous sculptor and woodcutting artist, and I'm just happy to be here.
Don't you have something you wanted to show us?
I have
Some
piece
artwork.
of my work here if you'd like to see it.
What was that exactly?
This is a wonderful statue. We have three gentlemen on the front, and if you turn it around, you get a wonderful picture on the other side. I'm very proud of this piece. This was during my morose period. I'm glad that all of you can see it.
I appreciate that.
Wait, you made that?
Yes, of course.
No, you didn't. I can see it.
No, look at the. You can see the woodwork here.
It looks like something a woman bought you. It was a
Of
terrible
course
gift.
not. That would never happen.
I mean, if you
Whatever.
did it, it's amazing. I really like it. What imagination, but I don't believe you did it.
I don't believe it either.
Well, that's my story, at least.
Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that fake story. Fake news. Sayeda, you're more than welcome to introduce yourself.
My name is Zaira. I'm Salvadorian, born, raised, and located in El Salvador. And thank you for having me.
Done. Hello, everybody. I'm Trigger Mike, husband, father, firearms extraordinaire.
And I'm Kat. I'm your mixed kid, so half Spanish, half white, and a little bit of everything. So nice to meet you guys.
Kat, ¿tú hablas español?
Un poquito. Pero es como niña, so it's like the grammar is awful, but I can survive.
You can survive. Okay. Sayeda, can you
enough.
translate?
That's enough. That's enough.
That's all you need. Awesome.
¿Dónde está el baño?
No, tú sabes un poquito más de eso, pero.
Okay.
Really? So for the rest of us?
I know a
No,
little
like
bit more than that.
seriously, like when I talk to tourists, the first phrases that I give them is like, ¿dónde está el baño? Where is the bathroom? ¿Cuánto cuesta? Is how much is it? Because those are like the things that are going to, they don't really need to interact. They know the basics, buenos dias, gracias, and all those
Donde es
things.
un cerveza, like,
Exactly. So, but there are things that they really need to know, like in case of emergency, survival.
Yeah.
So just so you know, 'cause this is your first show, Kat, Sayeda lives in El Salvador and she owns her own tourism company. So if you ever go to El Salvador, book Sayeda. She's the best.
Thank you, Kelly.
We're planning a trip, by the way. Okay, so I have an icebreaker question for everyone. I just thought it would be something fun to start the show with. And I don't know if everyone got the question, but it's if you had to be stranded on an island with one person for a year, who would you choose and why? And it could be any person that you've ever known. It could be someone you don't even know. But who would you choose to be stranded on this island with?
I thought about this.
Go ahead, Kat.
I got it.
I know you did. She was
Crocodile
texting
hunter.
me. So
I did. I was like, can they be dead? And she was like, yeah, they can be. I'm like, cool, awesome. Yeah.
now on the
100%.
island. I'm hoping they're alive on the island.
100% Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, because the man, he knows how to survive. He can look at an animal and be like, that's poisonous. That's not poisonous. This is edible. Like I don't have to worry about anything. And we'll like good conversation, respectful, and you can stay on your side of the island. I can stay on mine. But if like I have an issue, if I have a snake and I'm like, listen, will this kill me? You'd be like, no, mate. And I'm like, thank you, Steve. Like, so good.
Okay. So who would like to go next?
Wow, this is a very difficult question because the first person that came, it's a year, an entire year. So the first thing is like my daughter, but damn, that's like bringing her to like, I have to, fight for her and make her survive. So that's 2 women. Well, a woman and a kid. I don't know if we're gonna survive. So, and then I thought of my father, but then my daddy is afraid of things. He's yeah, he's a great man, but he's a scary cat, and he transmits his insecurities to me sometimes. I love him, but I would choose my grandfather. I will definitely survive with him. My grandfather, and he's funny. He was funny.
Yeah, so you'd have a good conversation too.
Oh yeah, all the time.
Okay. Raul Duke?
No.
No? I already know who
not
Trigger Mike's
sure.
going to choose.
I didn't get this question. You sent me some other questions. I want to say like, Jessica Alba or Scarlett Johansson, just because.
Oh my God.
I mean, you're on the island. I can handle the snakes and shit. I watched all the episodes of Alone. I'm fine.
Oh my God.
But I guess, if we're not worried about survival, I guess I'd probably choose Plato. He would have a very interesting conversation, and he and I could at least talk about stuff for a while.
You said Plato?
Yeah, but can I make it like a female version of Plato?
I know why you want to pick a female version of Plato.
I'm going to be alone on there for a year. I mean, can we not have what's that movie where the girl, Katniss, is lost in space and he wakes her up and they're alone for whatever?
Yes, I know what you're talking about. I
would be the guy that wakes up Katniss. I would do it. 100%.
Really?
100%.
Katniss, you're giving her fake name from Hunger Games?
Jennifer Lawrence. It took me a second. I'm sorry.
The girl from the movie Hunger Games? Who has a real name?
So I would choose if you could get a hot female version of Plato, I'd pick that one.
Okay. So you want good conversation. That's what you're looking for your
In a
year.
hot chair.
In a hot package. Got it.
That would be fantastic.
A hot pocket.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Smart hot pocket.
Smart hot pocket. We can take care of the fire. We'll cook some iguanas, no problem. But I don't want to spend a whole year with just another dude. I need some estrogen in the area. And I would
when you said iguana, when you said cook an iguana, I was looking at Iris's face, and her face just was like, "What? No, we're not eating iguana. You can eat iguana. There's coconuts, there's fruit, there is so many other options that is not iguana." And I am on
it's
your
the vegan lifestyle, but sometimes you gotta flavor it up. It's a survival situation. You need vitamin
You can
B12.
catch a fish and not be vegan. There's fish in this. Why do you immediately iguana? I'm just the fish, an octopus, a shark before an iguana.
I'm with her on the fish.
Wait, have you guys ever had iguana?
Have you had an iguana?
I mean,
as you sip your water and go, have you never enjoyed the delicacies of an iguana?
Kat, you're funny.
I mean, I would try it. I would. If they make it right. So, Sayeda, you said yes, you have had iguana? How's it taste?
Everybody says it tastes like chicken, but it's not. It's a combination because it's have you tried duck? Yeah. So the meat is hard like duck, but their flavor is kind of between pork and chicken. So it's a combination. There's no, it's specific. The only thing I have to say, it has a specific smell, like egg. Yeah.
So it's a ducky, eggy smelling.
Enjoy
It's not greasy though, because duck meat is greasy. Duck meat is greasy, but this one is dry. It's dry like pork.
You know what?
Chicken is more juicy than pork. So
at the end of the day, I think I would get tired of eating coconuts and grass. I would eat some iguana.
There you go.
Come here, iguana.
Wow.
Welcome, Iris Bloom. The question is, if you had this is just an icebreaker. If you had to be stranded on an island with one person for a year, who would you choose and why? It's just you and Trigger Mike that haven't gone.
Okay. Well, I mean, does it matter if the person is living or dead?
That is the question the cat asked. No, you can pick anyone.
It would definitely
Jesus
be
Christ? You gonna pick Jesus?
No, it'd be Dad, Jana. Let's be real. If I could bring him back for a year, sure would. Ask him all the questions I forgot to ask him. Yeah. I said, ask him all the questions I forgot to ask him.
Plus, he's really he'll be able to survive.
Yeah, he was very wise. He was going to be my apocalyptic partner. He knew what to do. I wasn't scared of zombies because my dad was I don't know, he's a warrior and he was crazy and he knew how to survive. So it was awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good dad.
Short answer. Dad.
Trigger Mike, do you have your person?
My answer is easy because I'm married. So the hell I look like? The hell I look like saying I'm gonna be somewhere anywhere else other than with my wife for a year. But the realistic answer is,
You're a wise man.
I have needs, so it'd be great to be on an island with my idol. But if I'm not having relations with my idol, then screw that.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to get those needs fulfilled at some point and be like, it's great. So if I'm married, of course, it's my wife. If I'm not married, it's Nia Long. I know she's in she's in a good place for me right now to come in and work my magic. So I
Okay.
have a shot, you know.
But you're a wise man picking your wife. I would pick my brother because he's very he's into nature, and I know that if we were in any type of deserted anything, he could survive. Like he can forage, he can kill animals, he knows how to hunt, he knows how to build fires. I need somebody that can cook, forage food.
So
And
now
he's
that
a
I'm
great
thinking about it,
conversationalist.
are y'all talking about it from a survival standpoint?
I was just
Oh, Kat, you said Steve Irwin. Oh,
Yeah, I was
my
about to say, I
goodness.
came in with a really good answer.
No,
So I don't know what you're
cancel
about to
that.
say.
If we're trying to survive, cancel that. Cancel that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get
Steve
it in. I
Irwin
thought we
is
were on
gonna protect
vacation.
me.
no, you're stranded. Like the
survival.
plane
No.
went down,
It is
you're on an
over.
island.
Oh no.
Like,
That
I
man
mean, like-
lived in the wilderness in Australia all the time. I'm like, if
Oh,
anyone
no.
knows how to survive,
No. My wife then becomes a liability. She's canceled. No.
That's what Sayeda
No,
was
no.
saying. She wouldn't
She's
bring
a
her
girly
daughter.
girl. Yeah. She's a girly. So this is right in my wheelhouse, right? So luckily for me, any of my buddies, like my gun buddies or the guys that I shoot with, prior military folk, they're all good. Any of them. I'll take my number one. His name is Clint. He's Hoodlum's Gun Bench on YouTube. Prior Special Forces Army. Oh, we'd be out there. We'd have mink coats. The king's out of there real quick. But yeah, we have the tools and machinery to make something shake and survive. So yeah, I take any of them.
Okay, awesome. And Amira, I don't know if you want to answer. This was just an icebreaker. It was if you had to be stranded on an island with one person for an entire year, who would you choose and why?
An island, huh?
Like your plane went down, you're stranded. You're on an island, one person. What's that movie with Tom Hanks? Like
I mean, I would say my husband, but I don't know if I can. Yeah, I guess my husband. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Nothing funny, I guess.
Smart answer.
Yeah, that's a good choice. When you're married, I think that's the best choice.
Crossing your fingers.
Yeah, so if we want to survive, that's actually not my best choice, but
And
if we're on
we die
vacation.
together.
I still think female version of Plato or like Katniss Evergreen is the best answer, and I'm gonna stand by that.
But you actually have to know them, Raul.
I know Katniss Evergreen. I watched that movie twice.
he says the last name wrong again. Evergreen, Everdeen, Ever Seen. Like just keeps like adding to it.
I think my mic's just not picking up the sound properly. It's probably the problem.
I love that Shayna. I love that like Kelly's just like, oh, the answers are done. I'm out. It's over. Peace. Good night.
I was trying to get the question queued up. He has a like a little paragraph for me to read, but I'll get into the first question, then we can go back to that. The first question, I don't know if you got the question, Samir. I'm sorry. It's how do other cultures feel about families living together? And I'm not gonna. People can just kind of chime in as they.
I feel like it's less about culture now and more about the economy. Like, I would love for it to be like, oh, it's a culture thing. Cause I definitely have families that like to live around each other. And that's like both of my sides. But for me personally, I was in my parents' house for a longer period of time because it was just too expensive, and still is too expensive. I'm in a very nice setup right now, but it's too much to live on your own. And to have extra help in the house, to have someone who's like, oh, I can pay for the groceries this week, is, you know, a little bit off of that hardship. So that's how I feel anyway.
Sayeda, did you come off?
Kelly.
Oh, Zamira, I'm sorry.
Kelly.
Yes.
Hi, Kelly. Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the question, culturally, in my culture, of course, we believe that no one should leave the house unless they're married, because us brown people, we don't believe in going anywhere alone. We don't believe in doing anything alone because it's just the way to be. We're, you can call us pack animals, I guess, you know, like wolves. We believe that the girl should stay home until she's married, and so should the son. So, and sometimes even when they do get married, the son brings the daughter to his family's house and they live together there. So,
And that is that a Muslim thing or like a Lebanese thing?
no, that's more. I don't know. It's a cultural thing, but it could be both, honestly, because even Islamic culture, we believe that the girl should not leave her house until she's married. So, because we believe that the woman should always be under the umbrella of a man, under the gaze of a man. So if it's not her father, then it should be her husband. If it's not her husband, then it should be a guardian. We call it like a wali. If it's not that, then it has to be even her son. Her son could even be the one that watches over her. Once he reaches a certain age, your son can then become your protector in our religion and culture.
Okay, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Iris, did you want to chime in?
I mean, I do agree with Amira in the sense of, I think that is one of the reasons why probably in American culture, why women are devalued sometimes. And I'm not saying that women can't be independent, but I do think it's important when you have the presence of a man that is showing that she has somebody at home that's protecting her. If you do cross the line, please know that there are people that are watching over her. So she has a covering. And I do understand, just culturally speaking, we could go probably too far into this, but just the way some of our culture is set up, due to broken homes. And I know that's no fault of anybody, so I'm not speaking against that, but it has set up a precedence where women probably feel like they do have to look out for themselves. And sometimes they do feel vulnerable. But even kind of what you said, Amira, our dad passed away last year, but our brother's kind of taken on that role where he's, very much like, concerned about anything that has to do with our life, just making sure that we know that we have like just a support in our life, because our dad was very much a man of wisdom and insight, and we went to him for a lot of just knowledge. He's very knowledgeable, and he was very willing to share that with everyone, but he had great insight in just this life. And so I see my brother stepping into that role, and I think it's always wise to have somebody else's vantage point, and even just a male's standpoint. So for us, I think it is wise, if you do have opportunity to live at home with your parents, I think at least that's a roommate that that you like. But I do understand if you are, you're independent and you want to take that step. I do think it's important that you still have a support system and people that like are checking in on you and making sure you're okay, because the world is changing and it's becoming a little bit more dangerous. And I'm trying to be conservative with that, but I do think it's important. Go ahead.
It is. You understand, like what your brother is doing is very rare to see in Western men in today's world. Western men have lost that sense of I'm the protector, because we have the women today saying, I don't need you. I pay my own rent. I live my own life. If I need help, I can call 911. 911. And this is why the men have kind of backed off. So I've seen that Western women, they don't depend on their family men anymore. We still depend on our family men, and only our family men, to protect us.
And I do, because I do feel like my family, no matter what happens in life, they're gonna cover us. They're gonna, as the world say, have my back. And I'm not saying that, everybody's family's set up this way, but our family is very close growing up. And I just feel like we've all invested in each other so deeply that if anything happened, my family's the first group I'm turning to. And, we've taught, I work with youth. So I always tell youth, as you grow up, yes, you're going to gain your independence, but you always want to have a sound voice in your life. And for us, it's our parents or loved ones or, our godparents. but there always needs to be somebody in your life that is looking out for you, because this world, it's becoming very skewed. So you want to make sure you have somebody that you can trust, and a solid person that you can turn to. And for me, that's my family. So I do think it's important, even if you do move outside the house, that you're still checking in. This is what I tell young girls when you're going to college or when you're going out and abroad. You need to be wise and make sure you're either going with somebody or you're checking in with somebody. Growing up doesn't mean that you're not accountable. You probably should be even more accountable and wise in this generation, because like I said, I mean, we all know what the world's looking like, and women are coming up missing every day. So I do think it's very important to have people that are watching out for you and people that you trust.
Thank you for sharing that. That was very intense, Iris.
Sorry, I wasn't trying to
No,
be
no,
intense.
no. I
Apologize.
no, I appreciate. I feel like it got really serious, so I appreciate that.
I'm sorry. It's just our dad grew up, just a little context and background. Our dad grew up in New York, and just living in as you guys know, living in a very large city, there's always kind of just the way it moves so quickly, and there's schemes and scams and gangs. He worked really hard to stay out of that kind of lifestyle, but he still picked up a lot of street smart. So he living in New York. So he was very serious about us watching out for each other, making sure we were mindful of our surroundings, making sure when we went out we were together, making sure we weren't even allowed to date when we were growing up. He was very, very serious about that. He's like,
You weren't allowed to go to the bathroom by yourself.
yes, he's like, there's a lot of women who get kidnapped in the bathroom. So he just gave us like just words of wisdom throughout life. And it might have seemed very extreme at that moment, but just seeing how many women are being human trafficked, how many kids are disappearing, it's not as easy to pick people out when you're in a group. So just these words of wisdom that he gave us. So I'm sorry if I sound intense. I just feel like there's a lot of women out there that probably need to be a little bit wiser about going in groups, or a little bit wiser about having someone with you that you can trust, because as we know, some people are taking on friends and they're setting them up to be kidnapped. So it's just an odd day we live in. So I do think it's important that your family knows where you're going, only because it's just important that you protect yourself. It doesn't mean you're not grown up, doesn't mean you're not independent. It's just we live in an odd world that's taking advantage of people, so we have to be wise.
But to add on to that, there's so many people that don't have that. They don't have
That's
a
true.
family that they can turn to. They don't
That's
have,
true.
and like that's not to hate on anything, because in so many ways I agree. I definitely love that I can call up my parents at any moment and be like, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what I need," and I know that they're going to be there for me. But I also recognize that finding those trusted people is really hard when you haven't had them.
Agreed.
Because I have so many people in my life who have shared their own stories of, oh, I didn't have this, and so I wanted it to be important that this person had it in me.
Yes, good point, Kat. Exactly. And I feel like friends can come along and become that family for you, and you can, in a sense, as Amir called it, you could have a covering. But I do feel like we all have an innate sense when we met somebody that is actually quality, and somebody that you can trust, and somebody that my mom would say, bring into your inner circle. You don't bring everybody into your inner circle. But it's very important that, you do surround yourself with people that you can trust, and being accountable to those people, because it protects you.
Raul Duke, did you come off the mic? Or Sayed? I saw someone come off the mic.
I did. I just wanted to say that I agree with Kat and Iris, but I also wanted to say, well, I am from El Salvador, and Latinos, we are judged, not even known for, but judged by living in a small house, 8 people together, but yeah, not just known for, but we're judged for that as well. But I see it from the point of view that that's what we're taught since we're little. Like I grew up with my cousins. Like we have a strong bond. Everybody thinks that we're siblings, and we're cousins. Like I used to walk to daycare with my six cousins every day, back and forth. And my grandma used to pick us up. My dad was the one in charge of dropping us off. So it's a strong connection. But I think it's easy to say, oh, because my grandpa was like, family is the only people that is going to support you when no one is there. But some people will say, nah, sometimes family is your worst enemy. But that's because it was the wrong structure. There was not a bond within the family, So, and I understand what Kat's saying. People really didn't have that. So that's why you have to come, in their life and say, hey, I am that person. I'm here for you. And it's important for us to change that mentality. But I would say traditions. It is just as important that we try, transmit this and also teach our new generations how important this is, and not just say it, but more like show it and really practice what we're preaching. Because my grandpa was like, "Oh, you're not coming to see me this weekend." We were in trouble if we didn't gather with him. So earlier today, someone asked me, "What's the plan for Christmas?" And I thought about it. I'm like, the same thing that I've been doing for the last 36 years, gathering with my family, all of us in the same house. So, yeah.
You on mute, Kelly?
I said Raul Duke or Trigger Mike. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Y'all really killed that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, y'all did a thing on families living together, and to Saira's point, yeah, I believe a lot of South Americans are teased. You said judge, it's teased. We tease. I got maybe 3 doors down from me. I don't know their nationality, but it's a lot of mugs in there. It's a lot of them in there. Because we don't like it because the HOA doesn't like people parking cars on the street. They take up the street. They got a lot of cars on the street. But no, it's cool. I love it. And you've heard me reference that this is the way it's supposed to be done. Somebody in that home is a citizen and is sacrificing their own personal space. And I'm actually going to call it the luxury of personal space. People think that they're granted or they have a right to personal space like your own house. Go around the world and see how people live,
Exactly.
not out of necessity. And you'll realize that personal space, your own apartment and all that is a luxury. You're not entitled to it. All right. So one of the points I wanted to make is that every culture that embraces togetherness and rejects individuality and sacrifices that luxury of personal space, they thrive in ways other ethnic groups don't. Okay, so when you want to talk about wealth building and all of these things we talk about and like why can't we get it together? It is this particular fact. No one has a good enough head start to build anything substantial. Right? No one has a good enough leg up to make it work. I would say even this could be factored into why some marriages fail within 5 years. When they cite finances, this is what they're talking about ultimately. No one sacrificed to give me a good enough head start to at least build something for my family, right? My father or anybody would just be like, well, move on into the house. It's paid for. Pay a bill here, bill there. Imagine doing that for 5 years straight and saving almost all of your salary. For some reason, I've noticed when you do things in a community sense and like in a home, everything just costs less, right? It's like you're making more spaghetti. So it just costs less. You're cooking more ground beef. It just costs less. But people aren't really thinking about that because they put a high demand and too much into that luxury of personal space. I believe society is going to correct itself. It always does. And that's what's happening now. Homes are too expensive for the average American. And now rent is going to become too expensive for the average American. So pushing people back into groups is going to be something that needs to be done out of necessity. And I don't want to sound like an agent of chaos, okay? But this is what's necessary for America. Absolute destruction of societal norms and everybody needing to rely on each other for necessity's sake. People don't change until you give them no choice. So somebody had said something about, well, maybe we can change. And no, people won't change. Give them no choice. Burn the whole institution down. Let them start from scratch. And you'll start to see the changes.
Raul Duke. Look at Amira. She's like, hallelujah.
100% burn it down. I don't mind that one bit. But just from a standpoint, I'm an older millennial, so I literally was raised by the boomers. And so it was my job to be out and alone at 18. I went to college. I took student loans. I was in the dorms. But at 18, you're out the door. Okay? They'll help you. If you get in trouble, you go to jail or something. Not me, but they'll bail you out. You're in trouble with rent. They'll help you out a bit, But for the most part, it is considered standard. At 18, you're out. And it's trial by fire. And the idea is that you'll become tougher, stronger, if you're having to strive for these things yourself. Now, whether or not that was correct compared to staying longer with your family and having a much more ease into the water standpoint, I'm actually more on that. I think it would be easier to do it that way. I think that would be a much more humane way to do it. I think Mike is right. That's the way that humanity should be. But that wasn't the choice I had. And so from where I came up, you were expected to make or break. Tough shit, get done. And your father would be a strong proponent of this, and you need to stand up. And it's a lot what Amira and Iris were talking about, to where you need to be strong enough to, if you need to take care of a woman. You also have to be that much stronger. And if you don't learn this at a young age, you're going to be weak when you're older. Whether or not this is right or wrong, the proper way for society to go, we can argue about that. But that's how I came out. And so I had to put myself through college, work full time, 40 hours a week, go to class 18 hours a week, party 20 hours a week, easy. And you do it. And you have to get to a point to where you are man enough to not only take care of your own shit, but if, you fall in love with a woman, or you're just whatever, you need to be able to make sure that she's safe and that she can hang out with you and you can take care of her as well. Is that sustainable now? No, I think Mike's right. I think Kat's right as far as the economics go. Most people, because the way rent is, I could get a roommate whenever I was 19 and I could survive. It was a shitty place. We had no furniture, but it was our place. Nowadays, I don't think they can. And so we need to have much more of a family unit to help stand up and work with us in order to allow the younger generation to move forward. But that's just right now, that's where we are as far as inflation and housing prices go. These things don't last forever. It's just a cycle. But for our generation that's listening to us now, that's younger, that's 18, 19, you can't do what I did. I had to. I don't expect the rest of you to do it.
So the reason I brought up this question is because on King Talk they had a can you bring that up, Lapeef? Do you have it?
Yeah, I got it.
Kat, do you mind reading it?
No, I don't mind.
I love your reading voice.
Oh, thank you.
Bring it up. Can you read this? And I wanted to bring it up because he was talking about other nationalities. That's why I wanted to bring it up with different nationalities to kind of get idea. Go ahead, Kat.
Okay. Black people, the only people who think it's something wrong with living with your parents. That's why other nationalities, the whole house, got 800 credit scores, no debt, drive Benzes, and got thousands in the bank. And then the reply is, some Black people make it hard for their kids to stay. Thousands of questions daily, pocket watching, rent amount constantly increasing, etc. Sometimes you have to choose peace rather than saving a few dollars.
So there was a whole conversation on that on King Talk. So I was like, well, why don't I just ask other nationalities? The question, this is number 2 question. I kind of want to roll into that, is what age would you kick your children out, or is it deemed appropriate?
Well, can I comment something on that?
Go right ahead. Yeah.
Because I agree with what is being said there, but the reply though got me thinking that I honestly have a peaceful life. I've always had. Like, I've never heard my grandparents arguing, yelling at each other. Never. My dad, never. Never. He can be upset, and when he's kind of like not wanting to hear something from my stepmom, he would just walk away. So,
I don't want to be black right now after what we just read, so I'm gonna just leave this on for a few minutes.
I was about to say, why do we have a serial killer in the room? We're trying to be diverse, but this is too much. This is too much.
So
I don't want to be black just for the next 5 minutes. I don't want to.
So it says a lot that you don't even want to deal with your own people. And I get it. I have to say, I'm from outside, right? So the way I see it, Black people are very emotional and passionate when they talk, when they are laughing. I love it. I love the energy, but that energy transferred to something else when it's anger in between. So it's like they cannot kind of like manage, I can be extremely happy, but when I am upset and mad, oh my God, that's terrible. That's what I have noticed. So that's why nobody wants to deal with that energy when it, people is mad at each other or angry. because I've never disrespected my stepmom, you know, and we're honest with each other, but we don't have arguments like that. So I cannot even think about living with people that I cannot deal with. Like I can't, you know, stay in that environment. So I understand that part as well. So we have to learn how to control that, I would say.
So I was raised in a very peaceful environment, in a very peaceful home, and our father didn't push us out. But I know a lot of people are in, like, kind of like how Raul Duke said, like 18 and you're out. What's your plan? Get out. So that's why I kind of wanted to pose the question, because I know there are a lot of cultures and races that believe in communal living and in making sure they support their family. But some races are like, you have a plan. It's college. It's you're out on your own. You better start a business or go to the military. So like
Yes.
so that I kind of wanted to have like that conversation. Like,
I mean, we can't even say it's just a cultural thing unless we're looking at the American culture, because they've been a model, and we could just say through the media for so long that I think people have taken on that and ingested something that was not how history did things. History showed that everybody lived communally for a very long time, and it was successful. I think everybody going after the American dream and everybody getting the big house, the white picket fence, it kind of pushed everybody to do something that was kind of outside of the norm, but now it's become the norm. And again, I'm not speaking against independent living. It's just, if that is not for you, I don't think you should feel pressured to do so. I feel like you should figure out what works for you. My parents actually studied the model of more of Asian culture, Latin culture, and they appreciated those that did communal living. And my dad was all about protecting women, empowering women, but making sure they were ready to go out in the world, not pushing them out where they didn't feel like they had nowhere else to go. So then you start depending on maybe different exchanges, to make rent, or you're putting yourself in a vulnerable situation. So he was like, when you're ready, I want you to be under my protection, and not in a like I don't want anybody to think my dad was like a control. It was a control thing. It was more like, I know I love my daughters. I want to protect them.
like
And
an
when
umbrella, a covering.
yes, it really is. And so I think it's very important that you figure out what your dream is. And for me, I rather my family, now that my dad is gone, I want to make sure my nephews and, those that are in my care, that now that my dad's not here, my brother, like I said, he stepped in, but we have a godfather, we have uncles, we have those that have stepped in, and they're making sure that we're safe, we're protected. So I do think it's important that we choose the model that works for us and not feeling pushed to fulfill some American dream. Because if you watch a lot of just the Asians, a lot of them will move in together, and they'll literally start a business together. And like they said, they will have multi-million dollar business within a couple of years, because they found a way. I think the screen froze. I'm so sorry, guys. If I
You
have
can
a
still
bad
see it.
connection, if I have a bad connection, my apologies. But they found a way for everyone to prosper. So everyone got what I call a hand up, not a hand out. And so I don't think there's anything wrong with you finding a model that works for you and your family. But I'm not going to sit up here and judge somebody that tries to move towards independent living. But at the same time, I'm definitely not going to judge somebody that decides to stay with their family and empower them and make sure everybody is safe or they're thriving, because there's nothing wrong with that.
Iris, do you have a brother?
I do.
Did he get the same consideration you did, or was he more forced to go out as I was?
My dad, and like you said, because as the man, we in our culture, we do feel like it is important that a man goes out and begins to build his life, build his home, so he can have a wife. So, but my dad did give him the option, but he did think it was important that he either went to school, found a trade, and that he established himself as a man so he could become a good husband. And he
So we can say
definitely
it's not so much cultural as gender or sexist. The men are. I was definitely pushed more to
for
excel
sure,
and become independent sooner than my sisters.
for sure.
I'm not saying it's
Yeah.
wrong.
No, you're right. That is definitely how our culture is set up. You're
Okay.
agreeing
So
with
is
you.
that, so you would say it's more of an American culture, or does that happen in other races? Like,
No, I wanted to say that's a very interesting point, because I think as a woman, I think that because he's looking at it from the point of view as a man, that he was given, he was pushed to do things. In my case, I look at it as my brother, I'm the oldest. My brother is the second youngest. So my dad, I consider sometimes machista. Like, you know, he gives my brother some freedom that we didn't have as women. Like, he gave my brother a car. He didn't give us a car. He didn't even teach us to drive because he was just protecting us, right? He people call it I was spoiled. But how women look at it is like, okay, he was giving you freedom, and he was allowing you and giving you skills, allowing the men to do things that we're capable of doing. But it's the man choosing that. Like, I get it, because I said it's machismo, but how we look at it is not like we want to do that. I wish my dad would have, like, treat me the same way and give my brother responsibility, because I feel like he was also spoiling my brother in a way, giving him a car and not letting him work for the car. So it's different, but it exists in other cultures as well.
Okay. Did you have anything to say, Lapeef? I know you've been sitting quiet over there.
Yeah, I've just been sitting observing. I kind of spoke on this yesterday. I was raised to not get pushed out of the house, but I had to have a plan. And so the plan that I did was I went to college, so it was kind of easy for me. But you can kind of just get the feeling the older I got, and it's kind of like, what are you going to do? Even when it came to getting allowance versus me going out there to work. I remember coming home for one summer, and I asked my grandmother for some money and said, you need to get you a job. And the one thing that she told me is something is better than nothing. And she was right, because the little $20, $30 they give me just wasn't enough back then. But when I went and got a job, at least I was getting about 150, $200 a week. So it made the difference. Um, I think for me, it was more, you had to have a plan. And as long as you following that plan and doing what you're supposed to do, and it's something that's productive, then we will still support you. But I couldn't come back to the house and just think I was going to sit around and not do nothing.
No.
Do you think that's more accepted for females? Like, if the girl, or like the girl's like, oh, I'm still deciding on my plan. Is that
And
okay?
Like
Oh, yeah.
I think it still all dependent.
Kat, I got you next. I heard. Go ahead.
I think it still all depends on what she's doing as well. If she's doing something that's productive, something that she's supposed to do, she's not out running the street stand like late at night, uh, spend the night at different men's house. I think that she would still have the support as well. But she had to be doing what she's supposed to do. And I think that for the women, that they are allowed to stay a little bit longer, only because they have to be in the right situation with the right person in order to be released. I mean, at least that's how I would feel. I wouldn't want my daughter just out there trying to figure it out. But when it comes to my son, I do think it's kind of like balance. And I always push this. Life is about balance, because you kind of want them to push them to be independent, but with support. And if you can figure out a way to simultaneously do that together, then I think it'll work better for the child, for the man, at least the young man.
Kat, I know you were trying to say something.
no, it's okay. It was because you were asking about, supporting the household. And it just made me think about when I was in high school, the ground kind of fell from under us. My dad lost his job. And my mom, for the most part, was like a stay-at-home mom, and she did, little side jobs here and there that really helped out the house.
Mhm.
But even though my dad didn't push for it, he wasn't something that he asked of me. My senior year of high school, I got a job. I did the thing where you went to school part-time and went to work part-time.
Mhm.
And because I didn't want to add to the burden, and I wanted to help my parents, with things. And I wanted to help the household. So, from, maybe a man's perspective, yeah, you want to be the head, you want to be a leader, but just because you're a woman doesn't mean you can't help. And I know there was definitely times where I wanted to contribute, and I didn't want to be like, oh, my hands are just, lifted if we lose everything. That's not the mentality I had. That's not the mentality I was raised with. The mentality I was raised with was work, know how to work, know how to survive, know how to live on, little. And I did. I remember we had this thing in high school called the senior project, and it could be on anything you want. And to be completely honest, I did something really easy. I did on how to live life simply, because it was something I was taught my whole life, how to live your life, that you don't have to go out and get like the latest name brand. You can go out and be like, oh, this is a nice shirt, and look, it's $3. Or, oh, look, this is something that I can have for a few years, and it's super cheap. You know, my mom was always someone that she looked and she's like, here's the deal, and this is how we're going to do this, and this is how we're going to do that. And when we had food stamps, we weren't one of those families that were like hiding our face, like, oh no, we have food stamps. We're like, look at me, I'm getting food for my family. Yes, we get to eat tonight. And it was something that we worked through. We support each other, and we were able to get through it because of, you know, that mentality of we don't have to have, you know, the big house, the big whatever. It was just like, we just need to survive and take care of each other.
And that's beautiful, especially in this day and age, because I feel like everyone wants to live that luxury lifestyle, you know, the Instagram dream, try to one up
But that's the thing, is like, it's a fantasy, it's a dream. It's like everything. It's like, what realistically can you do? So you don't have the big mansion. Do you have a roof over your head? Oh my goodness, that's so good. That's so good. There's so many people that don't have that roof over their heads. There's so many people that don't have food in their fridge. And to be grateful, to be content with what you have is such a struggle for so many people. But I think it's so important. You know, I'm not driving like the fanciest car. There's nothing in my life that I'm just like, ah, yes, look, it's just, you know, my little cheap gold frames from Amazon is the closest thing to luxury I get sometimes. But I'm okay with that. I have everything I need. And contentment, I think, is the bigger struggle, because even if you do have everything, that doesn't mean you're content with what you have.
That's very true. There are a lot of rich people who are very unhappy people. Trigger Mike or Amira, I don't know if you had a chance to speak on this.
Your audio.
Yeah, your audio's coming in.
So you're an alien,
Yeah.
right now?
So Kelly, just to answer the question and to have, so in the US we always hear that kids are kicked out of the house at 18. Is this like a rule or
considered a grown up? You're considered an adult at 18.
Yes.
Wow. So here in my country, parents will never kick that kid out. Never. You don't hear that. It's more like they're allowed to stay until they, because it's kind of like parents understand that they will grow and try to work for their things. So when they are ready, they just leave alone. You know, like that nobody has to tell them that they have to go, but they have to follow the rules of the house. That's for sure.
Yes.
If I follow the rules of the house, so you can live here, but you gotta wash dishes, you gotta cook, you gotta. If you're working or studying, you gotta follow the rules. Hey, if your dad says that you gotta be here at 11, you gotta be back.
That was my biggest problem. That's why I wanted to leave so early. Once you hit 18, I was happy to go. I was happy to go. I did not want to be controlled. And it was, I honestly believe that, you know, your culture is correct, that you should be allowed to stay longer. I think it's, of course, it makes sense. You can save up more money. You can get out at the proper time. The way that I was sent out, while it did toughen me and it did make me stronger and smarter, I think you can still get those same results with a more enlightened standpoint, which is what I think your family has. And so, but no, at the same time, fuck that noise. I do not want to have a curfew. I would love, as soon as I can, to be my own person and do whatever the hell I want. And so that was a strong motivating factor to accepting the push out of the nest.
Okay. Amiri, did you want to go now?
What?
Whoa,
It sounds like Star Warsy.
Exactly. Star Wars is also giving me Wally. Like, did you see that?
Wally,
No.
Wally.
Let her say it.
Wally.
Go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely. 100%.
Wally.
No. E.T.
Can you say Wally for me, like real quick?
Phone home.
Just say Wally.
Have fun with it.
Say Wally, please. Say Wally.
Yeah, can you hear me?
The mystic portal awaits. Like, what is going on?
Wow. Trigger Mike, did you have a chance to speak on this? I'm trying to keep track of everyone.
No, not on this. So just thinking about it, in Nigerian culture, it's pretty much the same. Well, I'm thinking somebody will tell you to leave, but in Nigeria, especially like in my parents' village where they're from, It's not uncommon to see children living with their parents. Those houses take forever to pay off, and the system we have here in America isn't present everywhere either. When people have a house, it's not like it's financed 30 years. No, you had to build that house for your family over time with materials that you gathered over time. So you want as many generations to come up in that house, and not have to go pay for anything elsewhere, right? And then usually when people get married, that's when they start wanting their own space for their own family, but they might not move out at that point. So when I think about what the issue is here in America, especially, like with the African American community, I realize that there are a lot of factors that point to the family dynamics being screwed up. And it's a lot of reasons for that. The most common are like single motherhood, right? So mama's got to have a life too. That's what's associated with kicking out the kid. Mama got to have a life too. I've spent my greatest years on you, So that's one of the big things here in America going on. But on the opposite side, you could have had too stern of a father, right? So we had that Fences story, right? So where it's just like, I'm gonna show you something, I'm gonna make a man out of you. I got it. This is actually a big one. Actually, I see this one a lot in the South. I got it out the mud, so you go and go get it out the mud too, which is one of the stupidest ideologies I've
I
ever
agree.
heard. I'm a first generation American. My father laid in the mud so I could walk, laid in the mud, his whole body, so I only have to go knee deep. I was in the mud knee deep so my brother could walk over my back clean. And we built a bridge so all of our children never have to step in the mud again. That's the way it's supposed to work. So we have this really bad ideology where it's like, I got it out the mud and my son's gonna have to get it out the mud too. That's stupid. So even if the father was present, that ideology is also too present in the home, and it leads to them doing serious damage to their sons. But then we have another thing at play here too. We have some parents, some black parents, that don't really seek to kick their kids out at all. The kids are too focused on that personal freedom that I was talking about. You don't want to be under the micro, and this goes across all races in America and ethnic groups. The kids, like if you just think about it now, they just too grown. They want to be too grown too early, right? All you thinking about is your little boyfriend, your little girlfriend. I want my own apartment so we can walk around naked. They're way too grown. Yeah, they are way too grown. So, I'm actually telling my story, right? I went to college, and then my dad was like, "So you're moving back in the house?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "Do you know the debauchery I've been doing for these next 4 years? You know how
Look at
you know,
Raul.
you know how many hotel rooms I'm gonna have to get a week for the frequency in which I have this behavior." So I was like, "No, I'm getting my own apartment." That was like literally one of the worst decisions I could have ever made. I should have saved money. I should have did all that. It was very hard to, get my life started because I was spending too much, right? So, changing careers, like this is not for me, and all that type of stuff. So yeah, I think those are the three things that play. You got the single motherhood, you got the super stern father, and then you have kids wanting to be too grown. And that's why we have this particular issue with family dynamics here in America.
Well, it's also a societal thing across races. If you live in America, there is an expectation that you become your own man. They give a little bit more leeway to their daughters, but you got to go out and make it. And that's across races. I mean, maybe white parents send their kids out faster than black parents or Latinos. I don't know, but I think it's an American thing where it's from generally what I've read. People in Europe, which are other white people, and other cultures, they are allowed to stay much longer. I would have felt like a loser had I been 19 and still at home. What kind of man are you? You know what I mean? And so, of course, I went out and I fucked up, just like Mike was saying, but I had a great time and I still survived. And I don't want to sound like a boomer where it's, well, I did it so you can. I understand the situations are different. But I think it's more of an American machoism, make yourself into who you're supposed to be on your own kind of mentality that permeates across racial barriers within America.
And to add to that, when I was 19, I remember calling my mom and crying and telling my mom, like, I was supposed to be here and I was supposed to be doing this and I was supposed to be doing that. And I saw myself in this position, or I saw myself in this situation, and none of that has happened for me. And, you know, I had a mom who's like, calm down, you are 19. But you do feel like a loser. You do feel like I should have left. But one of my favorite illustrations I've ever heard was people try to be like, okay, you graduated kindergarten, you did high school together, you did this, you did that together, so it should all be the same, it should all be unified. But we're not unified. We're not like pages of a book you flip. We're popcorn. Some popcorn pops early, some popcorn pops later, but at the end of the day, it's still popcorn and it's all still delicious. We just pop at different times, but there's nothing wrong with that.
So I wanted to say that while I'm thinking, the problem is not kicking, their kids out or allowing them to stay. Both could be wrong if you don't teach them the right thing. Because I've seen on the other side that you allow them to stay and they don't do anything with their life because they get too comfortable. And I've seen that, the other side where you kick them out, but you didn't teach them anything. Like my brother, for example, he's 25, 26, and he owns his house already. So, but he was staying in the house. He was working. He was studying. He graduated. He's an engineer, and he bought his house. But he was someone that was preaching something and practicing what he's preaching. Is my father. So if my dad was irresponsible with his financial situation, of course my brother would have seen this and he would just probably be doing anything, nothing with his life, which is what I see. And I heard one time, if you want your kids to be standing on the ground, you got to put some responsibility over their shoulders. That's what I believe.
Yes.
I'm so glad that you just said that, because that actually transitions into our next question, which is, in your culture, how do you train your next generation?
We didn't hear from Amir yet, though.
Oh, the sound. Do we got it?
How are you, Amir?
Nope, I can still hear it.
It's bad.
Oh, no.
Yes. That was Lapeef playing.
That's
Lapeef, quiet, man.
Oh my God.
not like computer love zapping Roger.
He's just fucking.
Yeah. I'm even scared to talk. I'm so scared to even say anything. Okay. Even the people in the comments are roasting me. D is like, don't be scared, Amira. Okay. I wanted to tell. There were so many things that I missed because clearly, but I believe it was Kelly. You're the one who put up the article talking about they were saying that they don't want to live together with the parents because there's rules and then the rent changes and so on and so forth, right? So here it is. It says, Black people are the only one who think that there's something wrong with living with your parents. That's why other nationalities got a whole house, 800 credit scores, drive, blah, blah, blah. And then it says some Black people make it hard for their kids to stay, thousands of questions daily, pocket watching, rent amount constantly increasing, etc. Okay, so when it comes down to that, right? When it comes down to that situation, that is a bunch of I don't know what you expect from your family, okay? I don't understand what the person who responded saying that they make it hard, the family makes it hard. What do you expect? In our families, you don't think that in every other family, in every other race, that happens too? We hate each other in our household. Sometimes we're throwing stuff around so we have a spiral staircase. And there'll be times when I'm going up the staircase and my brother-in-law is throwing something at me and I'm throwing something back at him at the same time. And we're yelling at each other, so mad at each other. He's cursing me out. I'm respectfully telling him off. This is family. It's what you do. But at 7:30, whatever time dinner is, we're all at the table eating. And when we go outside, he would never disrespect me and I would never disrespect him because this is family. So I don't understand what people expect, that you're going to be in your house and you're always going to be okay and getting along. You're not. It's going to be hard. In fact, I would even say that family are sometimes one of the worst people to live with half the time, because these are the people that you love. These are the people that you love and that you hate the most, because with love, it comes that hate too. You cannot hate something that you never loved. And this is something that we have in the family. So, and as for the prices of rent going up, okay, I understand every family has money issues, sure. But this, I don't know. I think that Americans, or this person says the Black community, I think Americans or Westerners in general have a very rosy idea of how living with your family should be, and that is not at all the reality. And once the reality smacks them in the face, they walk out and they run out because they're excited to get that liberation from them. But this is the best way for you if you only knew. If you only knew what was best for you, because along with how Raul said, how you leave, and yes, you get to make your own decisions, but it also leaves so many opportunities for those that are older than you, smarter than you, maturer than you, to eat you like a dog, to prey on you because you're young and dumb. And that's what we don't have in our families. Nobody can prey on our young. And when I say young, I mean 17 to 30. Nobody can prey on them in that age because they have Baba. Baba is the one saying, no, you're not going to do that. You're not going to sell that car to that person. No, you're not going to quit that job right now. You've only been there 2 years. No, you're not going to do that. We have each other. So that was my rant. I'm sorry. I just wanted to.
No, they're surrounded by wisdom. And I feel like that's a good point. And I hope my baby sister's watching this because, you know, she's under the impression that, you know, I think sometimes we look, and I think to trigger Mike's point, we're hoping for like some fantasy. And we're trying to bring that into reality. I think we all watch way too many films or some people series, and you know, you're looking at people solving problems in 30 minutes. That's not reality. Sometimes it takes years to heal from trauma. Sometimes it takes many conversations to get past things. And I think in life, if you really love some people, to Amir's point, there are going to be points where you can't stand them, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't work it through. That doesn't mean, and I feel like these are opportunities for you to learn how to use your communication skills, for you to learn, use
You guys know how
problem
much I
solving
hate my
skills. Why
mother-in-law
not problem
too.
solve?
You should have kept
I
that
hate
one.
her.
You couldn't
hate
help
her.
it. You couldn't help but blurt that one out.
I hate her. I can't stand her.
And
Hey,
again.
Don't post this shit.
I can't even breathe.
Yeah, I was gonna say we gotta
edit that out.
clip
We
that
need to
out.
edit that. I don't want your mother-in-law to
It's
see that.
live.
Lapeef, please edit that.
It's
You know they got ESP. She's itching right now. Like, who's talking about me? Nope.
She can probably hear me downstairs. That's okay.
Why?
She knows it. She knows it. She knows it too. She hates me too, and I think that's why we get along with each other. You know, that's why we have a mutual hate.
Keeps us loving each other.
Just
Yeah.
made my
Hey,
day.
just to clarify the feel for the rest of you, no white family believes that it's like the Brady Bunch. Okay, me and my sister try to kill each other with knives, so we're just as psychotic as the rest of you.
No.
Don't believe the bullshit you see it.
Knives out. What?
Hollywood.
He
I
said,
know.
"Don't believe the Brady Bunch."
Yeah, I feel like Hollywood
Horse
definitely.
We don't
Bobby,
believe it.
It's a lie.
Just in case you thought we were all Midwesterners who can't eat cheese. No,
What?
because it's too
I
hot.
love that it became like a lactose intolerant hate group. That's what it became. Like we were talking about family, but you lactose intolerant people out. Get out. We're not including you. We're not including you.
I
We're
don't
eating
consider you
cheese.
white
Eat the
anymore. You're
cheese.
just out. You can be something else. You can be gray.
Oh.
You can't handle cheese. You're not white. Fuck off.
That's true. That's so true. That's very true.
yeah, I was like, yeah, that's
Like everybody else, we don't drink milk
that's
past the age of
biologically
infancy.
true. Yeah, that's fine.
It's very true.
That's
Well,
what-
guys,
True. My father used to say, "Milk is for baby cows. Like we don't drink milk."
And white people.
cheese is
They're the least lactose intolerant people on earth,
And mayonnaise.
Oh, ew.
and those things are white.
No.
Do you see the correlation here?
White people like to eat white shit.
We are solving. We're curing cancer on this podcast.
oh my god.
Is that what we're going into?
We were on a
White
track.
people
We were on a
like to eat
track.
white shit.
It was laid. There was like, it was perfect. We were going in like a
Yeah.
good direction. And then all of a sudden it was just like Amira said, I hate my mother-in-law. And now we're out in the wilderness and it turned to milk. How did it go from I hate my mother-in-law
It's Amira's fault.
to milk?
We had to
Like,
lighten the mood.
We
No,
should've
she
let-
reminds me of milk too.
She
She
fucked us
reminds
up.
me of milk. I'm joking. I'm joking.
All right,
But
next
those are normal
joking.
things. You see,
Yeah,
that's
that's
normal. That is
That's
very
normal.
normal. It happens
That's family.
everywhere. It happens everywhere in the world. Like, you are not gonna get along with everybody. I love
You're
my
not.
siblings, but I can tell you one of them, and I'm like blaming my father for spoiling her too much because the responsibility he was giving me for being the oldest is not the same responsibility. He's still asking me for things that I'm like, why don't you act the same with this person?
Mhm.
You know, like I'm a grown woman. You know, don't sometimes it have to be like that and remind him that it's not me that he's supposed to be saying what he's saying. And that happens everywhere. People think that is exactly like Amira said, that it's like rainbows and you know, everything's so colorful living with your family. It's not. At the end of the day,
like
it's a
support.
thin line between love and hate, but not hate ever.
Yeah, but
Well, you know what they said.
people
You
realize-
know what they said, guys. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go
Do you
ahead.
guys know what they said? That the opposite of love is hate, but that's not true. The opposite of love is indifference. Love is caring for somebody. Hate is caring somebody enough to hate them, and indifference is not giving a darn about them either way. And I believe that is the opposite of love, rather than hate being the opposite.
That's a good one. I like
It's
it.
still a very strong emotion that you're giving towards a person.
Oh yeah.
It's still very strong.
Mhm.
You have to
Hope that's
hate
not
someone in order
copyrighted.
to.
I'm feeling it.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah,
That was
right.
good. That was good, Amir. Well, family,
I
it's
think
been
people
a
realize-
pleasure. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go
I was gonna
ahead.
say it's been a pleasure being with you all tonight. You guys are
No,
very
no.
classy.
I have one more question.
I'm so sorry. I have another meeting to get to. I'm so sorry. I did tell you at the beginning. But I just want to say you guys are a classy bunch. Thank you for literally bringing so much wisdom. And I'm hoping a lot of people are listening to this so they can take this wisdom and build their lives, you know. And like he said, and we're not in the mud. We can, you know, on the bridge, we can walk all together. So love you guys. Pleasure meeting you all.
Thank you guys for joining. I really wanted her to chime in the next question. So the next one is, in your culture, how do you train your next generation?
Ooh. How do you train them?
I have a lot.
A lot of people just kind of like, I heard a gentleman last night, he was speaking about how his children didn't know what a credit score was or how it works. Like there are certain things that you're supposed to give your children so they can make it in the world, and a lot of people just are failing to do that. So I want to know, like in other cultures, are there certain things that they teach them to prepare them to be adults or independent?
So I believe it's a few things, because it's I believe it's very hard to raise kids here in the States, because as a parent, you're not even, when we talk about being a bad parent, it's not even your fault most of the time, because you combat here in this place we live in. You're combating so many distractions and bad influences from your children, and those influences are coming in outside of what you're teaching in the home. So you have to start like so what I'm about to say is going to sound like, really, you actually have to take over your children's lives in order to cover them enough for them to listen. Right? So you're talking about finance and all of this. You have to stop them, because we live in a very pretentious society. We designer everything. The people are saying they got designer vagina now. Like I was like, what? Like, you see what I'm saying? They hear this stuff. It's 100% immersed in the culture. So you're gonna have to think as a parent. They spend more time at school than they do with me. I'm going to have to be just as intense. And that's when I use that word, I'm talking about my father. I never understood the intensity to which he was raising me, but that's exactly what he was doing. He was counteracting every single behavior I brought in the house that he witnessed himself from outside, right? The stuff that he didn't like other kids doing, the things he would talk about with other parents, he'd see it in me in immediate correction. Now it's not just a talk. He's taking it over. He's having me go, he's having people come over. You don't go to your after school, you go to your uncle's house, that type of stuff to shield me. You got to shield your kids from all of that. So even to begin to train them, you have to take over their lives, right? You have to put them in activities, stop them from hanging with certain friends. That's a big one, no matter how bad it hurts them. So training them, you have to set the table for that, right? Because it's so easy to say, well, I'm at work, they're playing with such and such. They're responsible, but those influences they get during that time that they're spending literally puts a wall up to your teaching getting through, your training getting through. So I think that's first and foremost. You got to take their lives over, shield them with incredible amount of intensity, right? They should not even understand why you're doing the things that you're doing until you're older. And I think that's
Sugar Mate.
Yep.
I have a question for what you're talking about. what is the difference between doing what you're doing and helicopter parenting?
Helicopter parenting. I'm not familiar with the phrase. Can you?
Like
I'm pretty sure in
Helicopter
context,
like you
parenting.
hover, you're always like over them watching them.
there's no
Well,
difference.
not only that. I mean, it gets worse than that. Helicopter parenting is smothering the child in a way where, to the point where they can't be independent because you've been there so much that they don't even know how to live without you, which is the opposite of what a parent should be doing. So, what is the difference between what you're saying versus
Okay.
helicopter parenting?
So yeah, I think the way I explained it definitely sounds like helicopter parenting. But the one thing that I believe a helicopter parent wouldn't do is some parents have the bad habit of doing things for their kids so they know it's done, right?
Mm-hmm.
Showing them and not allowing them to practice. I believe it's one as a father, especially. I know that competency does not happen from the screen, right? It doesn't come from the teaching, it comes from the doing. And I believe it's helicopter parenting when you're only striving to teach and tell without having enough faith in them to let them try by themselves. So yeah, even though my father did that, all that stuff, he was super intense, he got the hell out of the way and let me try it. Right. He just prayed, like, I hope this goes well. I hope he doesn't embarrass me. But I do believe some parents shield their kids from everything. Well, I don't want this to happen to my kid. Guess what? They'll never be the best. They'll never be anything because they can't go against the kids with the organic knowledge that have fell 30 times and 29 times and got up 30. Right. So
To add to Amira, what she was saying, I have a quick question. When you were saying that, like, you shield them, that they don't know why you're shielding them, what did you mean? Because I don't want to say something and
So,
it's because I misheard you.
think about the immaturity.
Okay.
Like, I think we have something in America here where too many parents want to be the cool parent.
Right. I agree
They
with
want to
that.
be the cool parent. I'm trying to be the effective parent. The kids may not be, or your teenager, your 18-year-old, 20-year-old may not be mature enough to understand why you're doing the things you're doing. Do them anyway. That's
See,
what I mean. Yeah.
For my household, when I wasn't allowed to go to slumber parties, and my mom may not have explained all of the reasons why, but at the same time, it wasn't a mystery to me because my mom is someone who she was just like, I'm doing this for this reason because it's protective. When I had a question, when I was like, okay, well, why are we doing it? My mom would always be like, this is why. And it was, she showed me the dangers of the world without necessarily, you don't have to experience it. I can tell you what's there. I can tell you, what do you want to know? I can tell you what's out there. I can tell you what can happen in the situation. I can tell you what can happen in that situation. I can tell you how to get out of this situation. But when she had to, obviously she protected me or she would stop me from doing something. But when we sat down and we had a discussion, because she was open always to having those discussions, it was, I'm protecting you. And whatever age I was she would share for this reason. Like when I was 5, she was like, you're not allowed to sit on a stranger's lap. Did she necessarily explain to a 5-year-old why you weren't allowed to sit on a stranger's lap? No. But when I got a little bit older, she would explain a little bit more. Or she would tell me, like when I was 5-year-old, don't let someone do this and don't let someone do that. And make sure you know what this is and make sure you know what that is. Because my mom found it so important to protect me, but also to give me the knowledge that I needed to survive, to be able to say, to be able to communicate if there was an issue.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
I wanted to say that, well, here, the first thing to train them, and
the chancla always.
Chancla. And we know how to aim from far away. Boom.
My mom did. My mom had good aim. My mom came into me. I was reading a book. I was supposed to be cleaning my room. My mom came in with the chancla. But the thing is my mom is ADD. And she went, is that no flying in the house? I used to read that when I was a kid. And she left. And I was like, this book's... And I never returned that book back to my teacher. That was a borrowed book from school. I never returned it. Like, you saved me from the chancla, like a gift.
But the thing is that I'm not saying that, you have to beat your kids, because that's not what happens. It's just that you just show it and they're like, oh, I don't want to get there. I don't want to go there,
I'm going to say
it doesn't mean that you never done it. And you
gotta beat them.
It's whatever parents think. Hey,
you don't have to say it. I will beat them.
I got my ass whooped every day when I was little. Every day, literally. By
Is
my
there
dad,
anyone on the
my
panel that
grandma,
didn't
or
get
my
spanking?
grandpa. But I have to say, what we do here and what I notice is that it's guidance. They allow room for growth to make to make mistakes too, and they kind of like, the biggest lesson. Well, they influence you, they give examples. It's more coaching, but for me, the biggest thing is you gotta earn things. They here, we don't even have that gifts exchange for Christmas. You gotta earn things. Like I can have the possibilities of buying you a bike, but if you don't deserve it, F that. We're not getting you that. We're not giving you that. So it's more like you gotta earn everything that you have. So at the moment that you want to leave this house, what do you have? What do you earn? What is something that you have gotten by your own ways? Nothing. So it's like you don't have a bed, you don't have nothing. So that's kind of like a way that how they do it here, and I think it works most of the time because they appreciate more. Like, hey, you got to earn your food at the same time. You got to, how do you do that? Do the dishes, take the trash out, like gather your toys. Depending on what age are you. So it's more like a teamwork. You got to help in the house. You become like someone. You're not just there existing. What I would say.
What about you?
I want to share. Oh,
No,
go ahead.
either.
Right.
I know you two didn't have a chance to speak, so whoever like.
No, Raul hasn't spoken in so long. I don't know if you want to.
He was too busy picking upping.
Oh, that was him. Okay, I was like, who is having an exorcism? No, for
You're not
us,
supposed to share that, Kelly. That was supposed to be behind the scenes.
Everyone heard it.
Oh, you could hear me hiccuping?
JR.
3 times.
But I don't know,
That
like
wasn't
when it
me.
comes
That was Sugar Mike show.
I want to share with you guys for us culturally as well. For us, it's more like we just keep the kid next to us, and that's how you raise them. Really, just keep them next to you. Like for girls, I don't know if it is. I think it's like this in Latino houses too, that the girls do everything and the boys don't do a darn thing until they're like older, because the girls are the ones who are responsible for the home, the cooking, the everything, and the boys, they literally can just sit back and kick their feet up. But when dad comes home, Baba comes home, Bubba takes them for pretty much like man stuff. And then when he's out doing the man stuff, the boy is next to him doing those things, whether it be tending to the car, tending to the outside environment, tending to, we have a lot of things that the boys have to do, painting and all of that, the home and everything. Those are the things that we leave for the boys. But for the girls are always working. And one of the ways that we bring girls up, we have girls right now in the house. This is why I have perfect example right here, because we're raising them. One of the ways that we bring them up is to set an example. The women around the kids, we always wear long dresses and long skirts, and we even cover our hair. We're constantly on our feet, cooking, cleaning, doing something, so the girls can always know the women should be up and on their feet, not laying down and being lazy, especially when there's something to do. We are always very open to like neighbors coming in, so that also gives the child a sense of having a good impression to the community, to the neighborhood, so the kid can understand how to serve other people. We have, this is how it is for us. I don't know how it is for others, but culturally, this is what we do. And as for money management, women are the ones who take care of the bills in the house, all the bills and the banking. The women take care of that. The men bring home the money. The women take care of the banking and the accounting. So as a girl growing up with your mother, we're constantly seeing that. And we're constantly seeing our mother bake bread by scratch. So we know how to do it just by looking at mama do it. One day mama will come home and say, you know what, daughter, I don't feel like doing it. Go bring me the stuff that I need to make the bread, or go get the bread started. Go make the dough and I'll bake it. So that's the training. It's just training. And you don't even realize it because you think it's just a normal day. But in truth, your mother is training you for when she's not there, you will be able to do it by yourself.
Have y'all ever noticed that we really, that's the way you're supposed to do it? Absolutely, Amira. And I think one of the Western no-nos that we do is that we do that thing where it's like, I want to give my child a life I never had. Well, that's an incomplete statement. Sure, you want to give them some things, but you're literally supposed to give them your whole life in addition to things they never had. So I think most people take that, whatever it meant in the beginning, now people take that as, well, even though my daughter's supposed to be in the kitchen with me learning how to cook, I really love that she can play and she got all these toys and stuff I never had. So she's building a dollhouse now. That's not a life skill. She's supposed to be in the kitchen with you. She's gonna have to take care of herself. If you want her to find a suitable mate in the future, that's damn near almost really a requirement, right? So, I think that's one of the no-nos that we do a lot. That no, you give your children everything. Forget all the luxury, save the luxury for later after they've learned those life lessons.
I agree with a lot of what Trigger Mike and Amira were saying. 'Cause that's how I was raised. I know culturally that's not really how most Black families raise their children, but we were raised a lot like you just explained, and my father was a lot like what you described, Trigger Mike. It's almost like he wanted like voluntary mind control. Like, this is my house. These are my rules. You're going to do it this way. You can ask questions. I will give you the answer. But there is no questioning whether or not it's going to be done this way. Once, if you're under my house, under my roof, this is the way it's going to be. I remember there were certain things we weren't allowed to do. He said, you can do it once you leave my house. And it was not a question. And as far as like cooking and cleaning, it was required. We weren't allowed to sit around. My mom is cooking. Come in here and learn how to make this. It wasn't even an option. Like, I was like, no, I'll sit back and watch this. No, this is how you make this. You have this dish tonight. You cook this dish. So me and all my sisters were in the kitchen all making something. Like, so now we can all cook. It wasn't even a question. You're cleaning. This is your chore. You master this chore. Next week, you switch. Your sister does this chore. So there was no
I think
questioning.
that's the right way to do it, though. I mean, you have to teach them that way.
Mhm.
I don't think there's a better way to do it. If the parents are doing it and they have survived, I mean, we're not all perfect gods here. We're human beings trying to exist. If your father and mother have created a home and you're living within it and they gave you life, why would you not learn from them? I don't see anything wrong with what your parents did, Kelly. I'm 100% on board.
I think a lot of parents are lazy these days. Like, they're so busy out YOLOing, trying to live their best life and still trying to be a teenager instead of taking that responsibility. Now I have children, so it's their life that's more important. I have to pour into them. They're still, here's a tablet or a cell phone, and they go out and they party instead of pouring into everything that they know, everything they have, everything they became. They don't pour it into their child. Like, there's so much wisdom that you can share with your children. And then, like Kat said, you don't even have to make those mistakes because your parents can just tell you in advance. You can learn through wisdom versus experience. But a lot of people aren't doing that. They're like, you know what? Good luck. Mom's going to party. And that's just not the way you should do things. Once you have a child, you need to set your needs to the side and start pouring into this little creation.
And so many people have to go to YouTube now to like understand how to deep clean or understand how to do laundry or understand how to do things because they didn't have that training at home. People are like, oh, I don't want to be stuck in this box. I don't want to be, but it's not about being stuck in a box. It's about knowing how to take care of yourself. And my family was always like, if you leave this house tomorrow, you're going to know how to cook. You're going to know how to feed yourself. You're going to know how to take care of your house. You're going to know how to take care of you, that you can present yourself in a professional way. And that's training that people, a lot of people are paying for when you could have had that at home.
And when men say I have a wife that doesn't know how to cook, it's just like that happened. I hear that so much now. Oh, she doesn't cook. We order out a lot. She just doesn't even know. Oh, I wash my own clothes. Oh, why did you marry her? she can't do any of that stuff.
Kelly, you can't say that because then women will say, what am I, your maid? If you want a maid, you can go buy a maid or you can, rent a maid. I am your wife. So I've heard that many a time. I know my camera is freezing, guys. Let me know if the audio is messed up. I'll try to figure it out later. But you'll have women who say that, who say like, I'm not your maid. I'm your wife. And one thing that I want to talk to about that is like, you as a woman, in our culture, right? The men, it's almost a sin for them to even wash dishes. The men cannot touch dishes. You can't. The men don't know how to wash their clothes. And there's a reason for that, because that's not their job. That's not their position. It's offensive for us as women to have a man washing his clothes when we're in the house. That is almost like fighting terms right there. Like, we're ready to like box at that point. Because why am I here if you're washing your clothes? No. So, I mean, and when I don't mean to be mean to other Americans, but when I go to the Americans' houses, what their standard of clean is disgusting to us. like their standard, American standard of clean is not clean to us. Like, because we pray in our homes, so our floors have to be of a certain standard. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
clutter and all of that. I've noticed that Americans love clutter, and they love this kind of. It feels homey to them. I think it feels homey to have clutter and things all over the walls and things all over the countertops and all of that. But for us,
There's
that's
whole
seen as
shows.
mess.
There's whole shows dedicated to that, Amira. What is it called? Like the
Hoarders,
hoarder.
I
hoarders.
just wanted
Yeah,
to say
hoarders.
that I wanted to say, because I have to go soon, that what I've noticed is that, and I'm gonna say it as a country in general in the U.S. What I've noticed is they're just creating or trying to create generational wealth, and it's not the same as legacy. Legacy has generational health, because if you look it up, the terminology or the definition of legacy is not just money. It is also, kids don't inherit just money. They also inherit the qualities on how you earn the money, how you use the money, the stress, the selfishness, the greed. So you have to be prepared for that. What is the point of leaving your child with thousands of dollars if he doesn't know how to manage the money? How did you earn the money? So people is just thinking like, I want to give this, without teaching them how to earn it when they're on their own. That's true legacy. I have to go. Thank you very much.
No, thank you so much, Sayeda. I was gonna let you go next, so I'm glad you jumped right.
Pleasure. Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for coming. So I had a video that he queued up to play, and then she answered the last question. So I'm gonna have Lapeef play the video, and then I have one more question. I know a lot of people have to go. It's getting late. So ready when you are, Mr.
Say that
JR?
they've waited 6 years for a grandchild, and now they have filed a lawsuit saying that if their son and daughter-in-law don't give them a grandchild within a year, they owe the parents 50 million rupees, which is equivalent to $675,000.
Damn! Damn, this is wild. They're suing their son for not giving them a grandchild. Being parents is so weird. You spend the first 18 years doing everything you can to stop your kids from having sex. And then as soon as they grow up, you turn into frat bros. Yo, you gotta get laid, dude. And don't use a condom either. That shit's for losers. Just do it. Do it now.
I am so sad that Trevor Noah's gone now. That makes me, I love that video. I've seen that video. Trevor Noah leaving breaks my heart into a million pieces.
No, he's gone for real?
Yeah, it's over. It's over. They did a goodbye. I cried a little bit. I was like,
I haven't seen it. I'm not ready. I'm still holding on.
I'm still not ready. It's over and I'm still not ready.
So the reason I wanted to play that video, because I wanted to ask the final question. I know everyone had a chance to get it. I don't know if you got it, Amira, but it's, how important is it to leave a legacy?
In our culture, it's very, very, very important. I mean, this is something that, even I go through already, because I haven't me and my husband haven't had babies yet. So we get this all the time. So, I mean, I understand. But when it comes down to in-laws suing their son and their daughter-in-law because they didn't produce, you have to ask, like, what was the conditions upon marriage? Because some families, especially like Eastern families, that is one of the conditions. Like they say, like, if you don't give children within the first 5 years, then you're liable for a divorce. But that's why I say, so it depends on the conditions of marriage, because that could be a reasonable thing, what they're saying, if that was a condition of the marriage. Now, if it wasn't a condition of the marriage, like in my case, it wasn't a condition for me to do that, then that's just, in-laws being sour because they don't have a new baby to play with. But I mean, it's like, you're not going to be the ones raising that child. Most likely it's going to be them. So they're the ones that's going to be up all night with the baby, not you. So forcing them to do something that they, don't want to do. But at the same time, guys, Americans, I don't understand why you guys don't have more babies in America. I really don't, especially white people. I don't understand why whites aren't having more babies, because their population in this country is going down so quickly. And so, and they're being replaced. They're being replaced with Latinos. So I don't know.
Speaking for me personally,
who you're half and half?
I'm half and half. I don't want kids. It's not something, with the way everything's going, with the way I see the world. it's scary to have kids. It's scary to think that, you know, they could leave your home and not come back. And I
Oh my
know,
God, really?
and I know quite a few friends who, which I know she wasn't reacting. She was reacting to something else. That was just really good time. But
No,
I
I was
know.
reacting to you. I was
Oh,
reacting
okay.
to you for sure. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Mm.
But you know, because it's just there's so many things that you can't control. You want to control things, but there's things that you can't control. And there's also things that I have a friend who can't have kids, can't do it. And I think having a legacy is so, for some people, when it's trying to leave something behind, but you can't control with what people do with what you leave behind. Like if you're like, oh, I did this, I accomplished this great thing, but then people look at you like, they're like, did you though? Was that really you? Was that, you know, you can't. So to a point, I think legacies they're not up to us always on how they're left. But I'm so sorry, Amira, why were you saying no?
This is absurd, and this is the problem with our generation. This is what you are, just a product of that, of this like mentality of like, oh, the world is so bad, you know. And I don't mean to make fun of you, but here I go. It's like the world is so bad, and you know, I'm so scared because why bring another human when there's so much suffering in the world? But you understand, we are living in the best times. Like our grandparents and great grandparents, they were living in times where they didn't have vaccine for polio. There was world wars going on, and they still brought up their children, and they weren't scared like us. They weren't a bunch of, you know, poussé. I don't want to say the word, but poussé. I will say it that way. They weren't like us, like we are today. We were just scared of everything. And it's like, you're just so scared that your poor child will have a bad experience one day. And it's like, that's life. That's that's the beauty of it, is the unknown and the problems that may arise, and death is part of life. All of this is, you know, and just, it's just a whole generation of people who are just like, I'm scared because bad things happen, and Trump.
Ha!
Oh, don't get Raul Duke started.
And Trump. That's funny.
Let me just say, fuck that Cheeto motherfucker. First off, most
Did you say Cheeto?
yeah, the man's orange. He's not white anymore. We don't claim him.
Sir, you are peach yourself. You are very peach there. You're
Yeah, but I
like
don't
not
look like
that white.
okay?
I mean, no, there's
There's no
different
white circles
classifications.
right here, where the rest of me is bloated and looking like Cheeto dust is blended
Yeah.
on my skin. I am a proud peach man, but I will tell you from the annals of the other peach people that as we have our conferences every year, we honestly don't give a shit. The educated versions of us don't give a shit if we're getting breeded out of America. Nobody gives a fuck what color you are. We're just trying to survive like the rest of you. A legacy, of course, your parents want you to have children so they can have grandkids, but there is no discussion in white families about, well, you need to have more kids, otherwise America won't be white anymore. Maybe for the redneck losers, they will think like that. But the rest of us who have elevated our thoughts, we don't give a shit. Okay, we're just trying to survive the same way as everyone else. Have kids if you can, if not, not. It's more concern for white people how you behave. I honestly don't care what color you are. I care how you behave in society. Are you a part of it or are you not? Are you lifting people up or are you crabs in a bucket? There's a big difference. And that's what I care about. Most of us do not have this mentality that a lot of you who are not within the white society see as, oh my God, these people want to have their own pseudo culture and they're just trying to blend us all out. I understand you meet a lot of assholes like that, but most of us are not that way. We don't care. We're the same as you. We're just trying to survive. Children are expensive. That's the biggest thing for most of us. It's a very large expense to have kids. It can completely, if you don't do it right, you can fuck it up bad. The same way Kat was saying, and Amira was, giving her a little bit of hell about that. You should just go ahead and go with it. It's chaos. Get with it. We agree. Most of us agree too. But we're not, there's no secret meetings, okay? Where all of us get together and say we need to have 20% more Irish and 13% more, English. We don't care. We're just trying to survive. Can you afford to have children?
I want to respond to you, Raul. Because this is exactly, and I know, Kelly, I won't do it. I won't go Alex Jones. I won't do it. But this is exactly what those in charge want. They want white people like Kat and Raul to be this way, to be like, I don't care about my race. Yeah, let the rest of them have America. That's fine. It's cool. I love, I hate Trump because he's racist. And, I want all of us to get along. It doesn't matter your color. We're just all going to get along. This is what they wanted. And Kat and Raul are the perfect prototype for what the future of America looks like. People who are afraid to bring in children, or who don't care to bring in children because they feel like, somebody else can do it, or it's expensive, or I don't want to.
Wait a minute. Why is it better if we have children than the Hispanics? Why is that intrinsically better?
It's not that it's better, but this is America. This is your country. And the population of this country is going down, just like Japan's population has gone down. Korea, we have people, the society is dying. And this is why we say Americans should produce. They should produce children and have bigger families. But I guess maybe it is better now just to live in a little apartment by yourselves and maybe have one, or maybe just a dog. Remember what Kevin Samuels used to say? Buy a dog and die alone? Maybe that is better.
No, Amir, I don't consider it to be bad. I consider it to be enlightenment. I consider us all to be humans of the same race. So who gives a shit what they look like? That's okay. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's regressive for you to think the other way. I think it's regressive for you to say, we must have more black people. We must have more Hispanic people. No, go fuck yourself. We're all humans. Behave properly. What is your culture bringing up? Are you lifting others up? Are you doing the right thing? Or are you evil bastards that want to slit each other's throats? I'll choose option A. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what kind of food you used to cook or what culture you had 300 years ago. Go fuck yourself. I don't care. We're all humans. Those of you who really want to separate us out and really give a shit about that I'm Hispanic and I'm black or I'm Italian, I think you are lower than me. I think you are not thinking high enough for our species. That's
very white of you.
Thank you. Step up. How about that?
So this is funny. This is an interesting turn of events here. But what was the question?
I don't know.
Okay. How important is it to leave a legacy?
Fuck yourself so many times.
How important is it to leave a legacy? Go fuck yourself.
Yes.
No, seriously, leaving a legacy is of the utmost importance. There is nothing more important. A lot of the time when people ask me why I got married as such an esteemed bachelor in my day, right? It's simply, the answer was very simple. I said, well, I'm under a lot of pressure by tradition. I was going across that age, that line where it's like, you better do something. Everybody who lived this life too long will eventually get burned by it, right? You're going to have a child out of, whatever. You need to start your life now. And my father was 100% right. You do something for too long, you won't want to give that life up, right? So leaving a legacy is of the utmost importance, because if you look into the future, right? I don't like to use my own understanding. I'm 36 years old, and yet I love to find out ways where I'm still inept. I'm still immature in many ways. And everybody thinks, we're grown and we're people, but you can never stop learning. And I'm glad that I'm able to look at my elders and people older than me and say, okay, what are they doing? What's important to them? So I know how I will mature and the things that will ultimately be important to me. And the one thing I know no one can do without, what depresses most people, men and women alike, of every culture, is when they get to a certain age and they've done nothing to leave their stamp, to leave their mark on this world. It affects almost everyone. Even the people who say it don't affect them, on their deathbed, they're like, I should have done more. And I shouldn't have. So, we know that is something that the human component of you wants to do. So there's nothing more important than leaving a legacy. Every move we make is tied to it, right? The reason why we get mad, upset, regretful about things is because we know we put a stain on our legacy, in a sense, right? So, yeah, there's nothing more important. And on back on y'all previous point, Rourke, I do think America could do with more Nigerian people. We're awesome. So yeah, just maybe a million more.
Yeah.
Leave the scammers in Nigeria, but bring the engineers, the doctors.
There are several of your princes that owe me at least $2 million.
America needs new kings, and I think we're up for the job.
Lapeef, did
All
you
my
have
cousins
anything?
bring y'all ass on over.
Lapeef, did you have anything you wanted to add as far as how important it is to leave a legacy?
I mean, I'm good as far as with legacy. I always said I wanted a part of me out there, so I think it's a wonderful thing to actually just because I'm a lead. I'm gonna lead the world. I'm gonna lead the earth. I'm gonna be gone, and when I'm gone, I just want to be somebody to be able to carry on the tradition. One of the things that I did notice is that when I was growing up, my family did have a lot of traditions that they would typically do. Like you had the family reunions and big gatherings, but as we got older, those things seemed to have been limited. As soon as people started falling off, transitioning, you just started seeing less and less of those things. So I think when you look at it in that aspect, it's up to us to kind of create these new traditions or decide whether we want to keep the same traditions that we had within the family. So I do think that legacy does have some importance, but it's up to you whether you want to push it or not. Me personally, I'm just glad to have some little mini me's running out there.
So I looked up the definition of legacy just for clarification. There was two. One is a noun, an amount of money or property left to someone in a will.
Mm-hmm.
Or two, the long-lasting impact of particular events, actions, etc., that took place in the past or in a person's life. So to me, legacy is important because it's kind of like what you did while you were here on this earth, and not just building something, but it's also the people that you impacted. And to me, it's not just about children. It's also like every person that you meet, every person that you touch. Did you help them in some way? Did you change their life? Like, what would they say at your funeral? And I think about people like Sam Walton. Like, he built this humongous legacy, and the dream he had after death is still providing for families all across the world. You know what I mean? And even though his children didn't fulfill his legacy, they didn't really care. They just took the money and wanted to spend it. And now there are CEOs running it, and the company's not the same anymore because it's not family. Like, everyone knew Sam Walton, everyone cared, and he cared about his people. So it's a little bit different how his children handle it now. And you can tell that the value, the family values went down when he died. So they didn't treat his legacy the way he built it. But also what he poured into what he did in this life is living on and still helping others. So I think about it in that aspect. As far as children are concerned, I do think it's good to pour into the children what you know. And in a way it lives on. I don't know if anyone's ever seen the movie Troy. There was a part where Achilles, he went to the soothsayer, and she was like, if you go to Troy, then, your name will be remembered throughout time. Or you could stay here and your family remember your kids, your grandchildren, but that's it. No one will remember you anymore. So I think there could be two different types of legacies. You could live on for the ages. There are people who are down in the history books, and there are people who their family will remember them until no one else is left in their family. So it's all
you guys
about
see what JR. You guys see what JR is doing too. JR is making his own legacy as well. I want to say like a year ago, the network was a lot smaller, a lot less people and everything. I see JR making his own legacy, making his own name on the on the worldwide stage as well. So it's getting there, and I think that's another way of making legacy as well, making giving opportunities to other people. Like
I agree.
JR gives opportunities to the people that he chooses in order to grow and get bigger and shine.
Mhm.
And that's a huge thing for JR to do too. That's your legacy, JR. Definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I know we've been talking about it because I've been having these conversations the past few months about legacy, and I've always associated with children. But I think Kelly made a good point too. It just got me thinking about the other aspect of legacy, and it's like who are you going to be when you leave this world? Like, did you make a name for yourself? Did you make a name for the family? What do people remember you for? So I think it's important, and appreciate that, Amir, for actually recognizing that, just putting in the work. But
Absolutely.
I do.
I think
I see you
I think,
working so hard.
thank you. Yeah, I think we all should be striving to kind of make the world a better place in our own way. So
Yeah. I
Did
mean,
anybody go ahead, Trigger Mike? I'm sorry.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna ask if anybody had final thoughts because that was my last question. If anybody else wanted to
No,
chime in.
excellent show. Great topics. I mean, there's a lot to be said on this legacy topic. I personally believe as a country right now, we're gonna go through a dramatic shift. Every day it seems like you're getting new information that just kind of lets you know that the future is not going to look like the present. And I just want to know how that's all going to fall down. I mean, to me, it really starts off with the simple things like, oh, Social Security not going to be here when you get old. And then you want to ask why not? And then we see that the average American can't afford a house. The middle class is about to be eradicated. So, we're in for some hard times. We're in for a hard next 20 years for this giant that is America. So it's going to be really interesting to see if the country itself and the people within it can sustain and go back to the values that made us great. But we know that's not how really those things really happen.
Yeah. I hope we don't lose the value.
Go ahead, Amir.
Oh, go ahead. No, it's okay. I'm done. I was just I'll wait until you're done.
I'll give a final thought on legacy, and Kelly brought it up. Achilles could have spent his entire life enjoying himself with his family, loved by the people he knows, enjoying his existence, and nobody would have known his name. But as far as his existence, his 60 years of life, I forget how old he was when he died, or he could skip all that and have a life of strife and be remembered. But as far as his Achilles is concerned, all he experienced was the strife. Perhaps who gives a fuck if sorry for saying that again, remembers you 200 years from now if your existence on this planet sucked? Why not consider choosing enjoying your life with those you love? Because just because you and I know who Achilles is does not affect him at all now. You know why? He's worm food.
And he old as hell. He's done being worm food.
Exactly. So why does he care if you and I know his name? What joy does that bring him? Think about it. It's worthwhile to be known, but you only live for so long. That's my thoughts on legacy.
Well, typically, when you see someone who wants their name to go on into the future, it's not because they want it for themselves. It's because they want it for their future generations, that they will be known as the descendants of so-and-so. And it's like, that's why I think a lot of us think this way, like, well, what is it going to do me? What good is it going to do me? I'm going to be dead. But it's not about you. It's about those that come after you. And a lot of people in our ancestry, look, I'm not saying everybody in our ancestry, but we have many people in our ancestry that made nothing of themselves, that just lived and died, and no one will ever know their name, and they won't speak their name again, because why? And then you have people in our ancestry, I'm sure all of us have someone who has done something great in our lineage. And then we look at them and we're so proud to be descendants of them, and to know that that runs in our veins, to know that the blood of so-and-so runs in our veins, that we can feel stronger in ourselves for this reason. So legacy, Kelly, huh? Go ahead.
Amira, do you know anyone who's related to Achilles? I'm just
No, I
curious.
No, I don't. But I'm sure he has descendants. I'm sure he has
I haven't
descendants.
heard a
So
thing
the
from you.
people who you don't need to. They know them. They know themselves. It's not about you. It's not just about you, Raul. So anyway, back to legacy. I wanted to say, guys, the legacy. I do believe the legacy is important. And if we're not here to do something and to be known for something good that we've done, then why? Why even exist, right? We should be known for something, whether it be in our community, whether it be worldwide, whether it be just even in your career, what have you. Be known for something that you did something good. I think it's a good thing.
You have any final thoughts, Kat?
No, I think everything was pretty much covered.
Okay. Well, did anyone else have anything else to say before I conclude?
Thank you, Kelly. It's been good.
Absolutely. I appreciate everyone coming on. I know sometimes it gets a little intense, and I do apologize. I hope no one's offended. I do want the panel to be educational and informative. So I appreciate
Really?
Yes, really. I appreciate everyone's perspectives and different worldviews. So I think that's what makes it interesting, because
It
sometimes
sure
you just
does.
don't know until you ask the question. So thank you all for coming
Definitely.
on and hanging out with us for a couple of hours. 150 minutes. Oh. And hopefully to see you next week. Thank you for joining Bridging the Gap.
I appreciate
Bye,
you, Kelly.
Kelly.
Bye, Amira. Bye, Kat. Bye, Raul. Trigger Mike.
Bye,
Love you.
JR.
Bye.
Bye, Kitty. Cat, sorry.
Nah, it's all
Okay.
good.
I was like, Kitty. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. Bye,
It was
Raul.
good to be with y'all tonight. All right, Kat and
And thank you for everyone
Raul,
joining that watched us and hanging out.
Amira, as always. All right,
Trigger.
see y'all.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Trigger Mike.
I want some music. I want some out music.